Today we're going to focus on drawing bodies. We've got a bunch of heads but no bodies. So we're going to start with a couple of different ways. Um, we're going to do four total bodies in this class. And you guys lately have been having trouble getting four heads finished and colored. But I'm hoping that you could keep up with this because normally we can still do this much or more in a 40-minute class. So I'm going to have you follow along with me. I'm going to draw. I want you to draw and try your best to keep up. Okay? So this part don't draw. I'll tell you when it's time to draw in a second. So I'm going to look at a body. And when I think about a body, again, I'm going to think about the bones that are underneath. And I've got a rib cage and a pelvis here, connected by the spinal cord. And I've got my skull. Look at even a circle U for the skull. It's perfect. So, an arm, two sections of the arm. So the front bones are actually two bones. The hands, which are on wrists, so those can actually bend too. So I'm going to bend it here. And then my legs. These are the biggest unfused bones in the body. Okay, so I'm thinking about two sections of legs, two sections of arms, two sections of body. And actually this part is very bendable because it's a very thin piece of bone and pieces of bone and a bunch of soft junk in there. More for me than some of you, but still. So I'm going to think about how can I draw this character in action, and I'm going to think about maybe the body, if I'm going to draw it as a rectangle, might bend like this, or it might bend like this. So I'm thinking about how I can make a lot of different shapes with my body there. So I'm going to start my drawing, and I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to hold on to this because I want to show you a few things. So first things first, I want you guys to kind of follow along and do what I'm going to do. So I'm going to start by doing just some basic rectangle bodies, and I need room for a head and room for legs and everything else. So my first body, I'm going to just kind of draw like this. And notice it's not a true rectangle. I'm leaving it a little round on the bottom if I want to. And then I can add my head, my old circle and U head here. And that comes down on the body, comes in the front, right there. And then on the shoulder, and I'm not going to go off, again, just like the ears, I'm not going to have it hang off like a tag like this. No overlap, just hanging off. That's the kind of arm that'll just break off in a strong wind. So my arm is going to actually come into the body on this side, and on this side it's going to go behind the body here. So you can see that I have plenty of overlap there. And you should be drawing this with me, please. Then this arm, notice how it's about halfway the body, where my elbow would be. And then I'm going to hold it down here, right? Notice it's getting thinner towards the wrist. And it can bunch up, but it can't get that much bigger. So I'm going to always operate from the side that's going to be furthest extended. So again, it's tapering there. Got a little overlap line. And then for the hands, I'm going to draw the hand as a square or a rectangle, a little bigger than the wrist. From the bottom, I'm going to do the thumb, and from the top, I'm going to do the fingers. Okay, just going to start with that for now. Maybe my proportions are off on that. Maybe it's a little long, so I'll change it. Okay. And it's kind of just like a mitten hand for now, but we'll work on that. A little bit of a rectangle, some mitten gloves, bottom inside thumb. Okay? And then I'm going to draw the legs. Okay? I just kind of drew those out. That's to the knee. Then straight on the front of the leg, high curve, like the peak of my curve is up here, tapering down to the ankle, the bottom of the leg, and then both my legs are kind of pointed out. Really, I'm turned that way, so I'm going to change this leg. So instead of having a clean straight front or a clean straight like shin, I'm going to make it more like the legs pointing towards us, and I'm going to use a curve. This knee will be in the middle, this knee will be over here. This foot's coming almost at us. This foot's going off to the side. Okay, just kind of laying the feet out where I think they're supposed to be. And I can fine tune those later. Shading some of this down. That's just figure number one, real basic, not even drawing eyes and ears and nose and mouth on it. Let's talk about those kid proportions. So with proportions, normally they say a human man is about 8 heads high. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So there's actually a lot of dispute on this, but 8 is one of the standards that everybody uses. So this would be the crotch line. This would be nipples, belly button. See how those line up? So you can see how this gives a very tall person with a smaller head. If I was to do it this way, the 8 heads high. Definitely not a child, and definitely not like necessarily a super cute cartoony vibe. But you could see how that could be something I could use. I'm going to try now, I'm going to try 4 heads high. Or, well, I'll do it on the other page because I don't have room. Here, 4 heads high. Maybe that's too big. 2, 4, more or less. Okay, so some of the same rules apply. The hands and the crotch are going to be around the same area as far as height is concerned. Remember, this is where the waist goes. Everything below this line, even part of the torso, is pants when I do my pants, and everything above that is shirt. Okay, so here I go, and I'm going to think about how the legs are about half the overall body. So I'll do this. If I was wearing shorts, the shorts would go here, and those shorts would also come up here. Too many people will draw like this, and they'll color these two things pant colored, and then this shirt colored. That's not good. This is called no. Okay? So now he's got his pants on, his bathing suit. Maybe he's at a swimming pool or something. A little kid. Kind of had his mitten go back, like his fingers are curved down. everything's a little fatter, a little more plump here. This foot's too crazy. Okay, and then my head will go here, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna think about where that U would be, because I don't have all that drawn out, and I'm gonna think about how his eyes might be big, his head might be big. Okay, maybe he's got a little pale here. Okay, so then I've got this other kind of body here. So I want you to try both those things with those kinds of proportions. Hopefully you are following along so you don't get behind. Take a few minutes, clean those up. Pause the video if you're online. If you're not, I'm going to pause it. I'm not going to put those 5-minute periods in the middle. So when you're done, we'll move forward. All right, so those are the rectangle body modes. I'm going to also do something called the bean. And the bean is simple. It's basically, I'm going to draw it using the shape of like a bean. Or, sorry, that's like the blind spot on the camera. So I'll draw it here. A bean like this, okay? Or I could draw a pear sometimes. Or I could draw an upside down pear. And these are all kind of considered part of the bean method of drawing. If you do any of these, they're kind of all considered part of the bean method of drawing. All right? So I'm going to go here and I'm going to draw my first bean, and I'm going to draw it with a top heavy shape and a bottom that's kind of pointy. And my next bean, I'm going to do just like a traditional bean, all kind of the same. Okay? And then on the head, this head, I'm going to make it kind of a squared off head. Here's my U, here's my circle. Okay? And I'm going to have big chunky arms. Again, on top of the body, overlapping the body, attached to the body, not hanging off like a tag. His other arm's going to come down on the other side and then come back across his chest. Okay? He's got a waist. Now, he's going to have small legs. I am exaggerating the upper proportions. Again, this is cartooning class, so you can feel free. Notice how they're thick at the top of the calf, taper at the bottom. So this one could be like a superhero saying the Pledge of Allegiance. Some boots. Some poofy gloves. Thinking about how that kind of character might be built around that body. Okay? Now this bean, I could do it either way. I could puff out the chest like he is, or I could slump it over. I'm going to slump it over. So I'm going to draw my circle. and my U. Notice how I'm keeping it all close to the body. The neck will go here so that I have overlap. So I'm not worried about that part. So this guy I'll draw his actual eyes and his nose. Then I'm adding that brow bone in, a little line for the other brow bone. Thinking about some kind of like goblin-y ears. And he's kind of hunched over. He's a little like creepy. This arm. Remember, the number one rule about the length of the arms is that if you're playing dodgeball, you should be able to cover your crotch with your hands, and that will tell you if you could, to protect yourself. If you could do that, then your arms are the right length. If they're too long and they're all bent up to do that, then they're too long. And if they're too short, they won't be able to reach. So that's something to think about. Notice I drew it right through the hand, so I understood where it should go. So it lines up. He's holding some kind of a torch in this hand. And let's have him holding a bag of something here. Sometimes mystery is the best thing because it starts making people think for themselves. When they start imagining what's in the bag, it can activate them to engage with your work. Overlapping the shirt's going to be like a little poofy at the bottom, so the belt is tucked in. Give him a buckle. Tops of the legs. Trying to keep the thickness consistent between the two. Bottoms of the legs. I don't want his pants to be tight, so I'm going to actually make his pants bigger than his legs. So I want you to take these, I want you to try and make a few four bodies, these two and those two. And I'd love you to add some details to them, make them look like someone or something, and go from there. Okay?